This is Transcast from the MetTrans family of centers. I'm Mat Kaplan, and it was my pleasure to once again attend the International Urban Freight Conference, or INUF, in October of 2015. This biannual event has become one of the most important gatherings of goods movement researchers and professionals from around the world. Transcast talked with several presenters and prominent attendees. One of them was Violeta Roso. Violeta is an associate professor in the Division of Logistics and Transportation at Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden. She is considered to be the leading expert on dry ports, with papers published in Transportation Research and many other journals. Her topic at INUF went in a slightly different direction. I sat down with her soon after she delivered her presentation, which she called Slow Steaming from the Shipper's Perspective. Violeta, welcome to Transcast. Thank you for joining us here, and thank you for that presentation, which I was fascinated by.
Thank you. I was actually surprised that I got so many questions related to the subject when we are one urban subject-related conference, because slow steaming is not that much, but eventually can influence urban transport as well.
Well, I suppose everything along the supply chain affects everything else, right?
Yes, that's true. We have to look at it that way, from a supplier to consumer all the way.
And I'm certainly not surprised you got those questions, because at least for me, a layperson, someone who is primarily outside the industry, but an interested observer, this topic of slow steaming seemed so counterintuitive. I mean, we're all about speeding up the supply chain, get those goods here in no time at all part of, on demand. But you indicated that there's apparently a great deal of research documented in the literature that there's a real place for this.
Yes, apparently there is more than 75% the transport today, maritime transport, that slow steams, actually, and that's a huge portion, 75%. But you know what? Money makes the world go round, and slow steaming saves a lot of money.
Which would also seem counterintuitive initially, but you made the case for why that's not true. I mean, why do you save money by having a ship go slower?
Well, basically, when you cut the speed for 24 knots, which is the usual normal speed, to 21, which is a slow steaming, you save a lot of fuel, and it's all about the fuel efficiency. Less fuel consumption cuts the price drastically, and of course then as a side effect we have also lower environmental impact. Everybody's claiming that this is a huge portion of the reason why we slow steam today, but basically it's really just a side effect.
Yeah, a happy side effect.
Yes.
I would guess that it also is less wear and tear on the ship's engine and the whole propulsion system.
Yes, that's true. That's also the part of saving. But there are certain trade-offs that go up and that have to cover these savings in the fuel. Of course, we save in the fuel, but we are using a ship's capacity of a ship's a lot less than it should be, than it could be. Slow steaming from China to Europe takes about 26 days compared to normal speed, which is 21 days. So you are basically using ship up to a week longer than you should or could.
Or a nearly, 25% increase
Yes.
in the shipping time.
Yes.
Obviously, this is not going to work for all kinds of goods.
No, time-sensitive goods, perishable goods, definitely they are influenced a lot. So those kinds of goods are not suitable for these kinds. But then on the other hand, very time-sensitive goods are often shipped with air freight, so they are rarely on containers on ships.
You also talked about the effect it has on labor costs, making the point that the crews of those ships have to be paid year-round regardless.
Yes, regardless the speed or how much work they do, they got the same salary, so that's kind of a drawback for a maritime company, of course.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the real focus of your presentation was a comparison of the literature with a group that you brought together. Tell us about these shippers.
Those are big Swedish-based companies, but they operate internationally. furnishing companies, fashion retailers, metal powder companies, and so on. So really big, huge companies. They agreed to participate in this survey because they are all influenced by this slow steaming in one way or another. The main purpose of this survey was to see the effects of that slow steaming on them, on the customers using that slow steaming, because a lot of literature is focused on how much lower emissions we get with slow steaming, lower environmental impact in general, how much money is saved, how much better is it for maritime companies, but very few had a focus on actually what it does on shippers. So that's what we wanted to find out with that. So the main finding from that survey was basically that, of course, they all noticed the longer shipping times. Unfortunately, they were not able to influence that sailing time. Prices were not cut due to that. No matter the maritime company saves money on the slow steaming, it hasn't influenced the rates that the shippers are paying for the transport of containers.
Interestingly, you told me that even the largest shippers, the biggest of these customers who you might expect to have more influence, not so much?
Not so much. No, not at all, actually.
In that table that you presented, where you compared what the literature indicates with what these shippers said, there were some pretty big contrasts. Can you talk more about those?
Yes, in the literature says that the reliability is influenced positively with this slow steaming because there's more time to plan everything, but it's not. None of the shippers experienced increased reliability due to slow steaming. And of 6 shippers that we interviewed, just 2 sort of identified some potential for environmental advertising due to that lower environmental impact. So not all are aware of that effect that they could use for their own promotion, sort of, we are green, if you ship with the slow steamers.
So reliability was at the top of their list, but they said they really don't see any improvement.
No.
But also flexibility, that the control over the supply chain, which, again, you said they don't really have.
They don't, and that's the biggest issue. But this is not just with slow steaming. This is in general with maritime transport that shippers have a hard time to influence that.
Of course, it's not your job, having presented this data, to say where the industry should go. But I wonder if you have any recommendations that come out of this, anything that you would say to either of these?
My recommendation would be just to share the cake with the maritime companies, that they should do that with their shippers. So they gain certain benefits from that. They should spread it around, not just keep them for themselves.
Yeah.
But as long as goods are on time delivered, slow steaming is fine. Mm-hmm. Just not to be late. Just in time is a point. And no matter if it takes months or 2, if you get your goods just in time when you need them, then it's really fine.
So as long as you know and can rely on that 26 days you talked about, yes, you can make your business work around it.
Exactly. You just have to plan everything in advance, a few days more than usual, and then it works fine.
Let me turn from your presentation, your research, to this conference. Have you been to the INUF before?
No, this is the first time.
I wonder about your general impressions of this, what has now become very much an international community coming together.
Yes, and it's great. I heard it was colleagues of mine who attended it last time, and they really liked it, so they actually recommended the conference. And although my paper is not directly into urban transport, it's also, as we said at the beginning, related. So they had the sessions that were saved for that kind of paper. So I just seized the opportunity and sent the paper, and I really enjoyed it. It was well organized. Everything functioned very well, so I'm really pleased. And food was great.
that helps. And I hope you're enjoying Southern California.
Definitely. From Sweden, I have to.
Thank you so much. This has been a great pleasure, and I'm glad that you were able to attend. And again, I thought your presentation was fascinating.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to participate. Thank you.
Our pleasure. You've been listening to Transcast with our guest, Violeta Roso, Associate Professor in the Division of Logistics and Transportation at Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden. We spoke with her at INUF, the 2015 International Urban Freight Conference in Long Beach, California. We hope you'll look for our other INUF conversations here in Transcast. Transcast is a production of the MetTrans family of centers, funded by agencies and organizations including the U.S. Department of Transportation and the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans. Visit us at metrans.org to learn how our research and services can benefit your efforts. I'm Mat Kaplan. Thanks for listening to Transcast.